Hello, good evening, and welcome to MuscleModelCars.com. Okay, again, this is AJ, episode 2. We were last week, we were talking about the street burner, the Challenger 1970, and just wanted to continue on from where we left off and basically give you a little history behind the 70 Challenger. Uh, the 1970s was a muscle car's pinnacle year with unmatched power, style, AMC issues. American Motors Company, what that is. Its strongest engine ever, a 340 horsepower, 390 for Rebel machine. It was Mopar's first pony car. Uh, Dodge Challenger was also a part of that, and the Plymouth Barracuda. They stormed out the chute, winged Roadrunner, Superbird, followed Shell Charger Daytona, draws Richard Petty away from Ford, and wins the NASCAR crown for Plymouth. Fomoco unleashes 429 Cobra Jet, Torinos, and Cyclones. Mustang's Boss 302 wins the Trans Am title, and the Shelby Mustangs die with little fanfare. Okay, GM allows 400 cubic inch diameter plus engines in intermediates. Buick responds with its quickest ever car, the GS 455 Stage 1. And Chevelle answers with a 454 LS6 version that threatened all whoever came up against it. I'm just giving a background on that because I wanted you to know the background behind this 1970 that we're building, that we were going to be building. And it also says that the LS, that 454 version, threatened all comers, second generation Camaros, bows with classic Euro styling, and is with the Z28, and it gets a 360 horsepower BPH, basically 350, 455 cubic inch diameter, wide W-30 is baddest olds 442. Wow. The GTO has effortless 455 CID cubic inch diameter, or Rochus 400 Ram Air redesigned Trans Am boasts world-class road manners, and the National Hot Rod Association (NHRA) creates a pro stock class. Big names flock. Top fuelers run 6.4 seconds. Funny cars turn 6.8 and 7 seconds. So basically, I'm giving you the history because that was the heyday for the muscle cars in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s is really when it really got fun to have one of these types of vehicles that with a Mopar especially. So that's what we're building, and I just wanted to give you a little background on that. I'm not going to spend much time on it. Where we left off last week, it was more of a safety issue that I wanted to get to, and I wanted you guys to understand that reading that the instructions for safety and using proper ventilation when using the cement for the models, that's very important. And I personally like to use the type of cement that is non-flammable types. That's the scent of it doesn't really it's not really that strong. So I'll show you those types I use and everything as we go on. But today, a couple of steps I want to move to is the step that would be to explain the instructions on painting the parts. Last week I showed you a list uh, that was more or less uh, uh, okay, like this, and this is basically tells me how I'm going to paint each part to make it as much realistic as possible. And I got that from the instructions that were included here, okay? That came with the model itself. So basically, if I'm reading from this list, okay, that was included, it gives me the body, it tells me the part number, okay, and that part number is going to correspond generally to one of these pieces that's in the bag or in your kit that came. And say, for instance, this guy here, just to kind of give you an idea, the part itself is in here in these little square boxes on here. You'll see little squares, and you normally have part numbers, okay? All of these have part numbers in these little rectangular boxes here. And I don't know if you can kind of make it out just yet, but it'll have the number that corresponds. Now that's on each part. You'll see it right here, here, here. So you can kind of get an idea of where everything is. And the number that's on here generally corresponds to everything that's going to happen here, okay, as you put it together. This number here is going to correspond to each part. Like this piece here, you'll see it like this is a 65. I'm looking backwards, so I think that's 65. Yeah, 65 up at the top. Okay, 73. All of that and all these parts correspond to it. It may seem like kindergarten type stuff, but it is important because there are parts that look similar, and you can end up putting on the wrong parts. But the key is to do it according to the steps that you feel is going to best give you a clean look, okay, as you go throughout the process. And as you can see, it's more than one page. This instruction set of instructions generally is, again, this is the model here, which is a 70 Challenger 2-in-1, and that's why I tell you to look at the instructions, because if you opt to go with 2 instead of 1 or 1 instead of 2, that's going to give you the idea of which part to use by these different squares in here that's numbered. All of them have a number. They're kind of hard to see. Some may need a magnifying glass. It just depends. But anyway, that being said, you have this particular book goes from, I want to say, page 1. It starts at page 1 over here with all the parts and the color and the paint guide up in here. It's a paint guide, so you can make sure that you get the correct painting and the utensils you need right here before you get started, okay? And this here gives you the numbers, okay, or letters. In this case, these are letters. This is A, B, C, and so on, okay? And when you do that, that corresponds to the instructions over here that you'll see. If you see that part, that's what color it should be when you look at it, if you want it to look as realistic as possible over here, okay? Say, for instance, let's go with the fan belt. Okay, that's a number 32. If you look at number 32, okay, on here, the number 32 is right on this page here, and it tells you what the part is, and it says fan belt, and then it says that particular color would be, I did it before I got on here, but 32 is on here, and I wrote it down. I went through the whole book. Takes a little time, but 32, as you can see, is right here in the column C, and it's black. So I first went and got all my colors, okay, here, wrote them down, and then I went through the entire set of instructions and decided which part and what color I wanted, so I could make sure when I purchased the needed materials that it all was here, and that I could color code it exactly as the model was. Okay, so you can do it any way you want to, but the realistic part of it is what you're going for. So therefore, you want to take your time if you choose to do it that way. If not, that's on you. You don't have to do it, but for the instructional purposes, I'm just telling you how I like to do it. If I had in the past had the opportunity to be in a car like a Chevelle, I had a friend that owned a 70 Chevelle back in 1978, I think, and it was canary yellow. I happened to see that kit, and I purchased it, and I pretty much did it. He was a good friend of mine in the military, and I painted the car exactly as he bought it. Had another friend that had a Boss Mustang that was also, it had no back seat, but the engine in it was crazy. I mean, it took a whole, I want to say 4 to 5 batteries. We had to remove the back seat to get it started. To get that's how powerful that engine was, and it was a dual clutch shifter that Hurst that we had to use when driving it, and we had to keep it in first gear, because if we put it in second gear on the base, we were getting a ticket by the MP. Okay, to eventually it had so much power that he couldn't drive it on base anymore. So and at that time I had a 4-barrel, a dual quad 4-barrel 72 Grand Prix, and that was a pretty big engine in that car, and it was a 400 horsepower size engine. So with that being said, you want to get the parts again from that list. I'm not going to show you the whole part all over again, but each one of these little hangers here has the markings and tells you what the color codes is. And again, you use that and correlate that with what's going on here, and you put it together. Sounds simple. It's like putting a couch or a chair or whatever. Not a couch together, but a chair or a table or a TV stand or whatever, but only smaller, much smaller parts. And they will tend to give you a problem once you start getting it all together. It looks easy now, but trust me, if you ain't got tiny little fingers and the right proper tools, it's going to get messy real quick. And you're not going to get the desired effect you're looking for. So always remember to have the necessary tools for the job. Okay? That's one thing. Next, once you do have all of that, you want to make sure you bought the paint and have everything accessible. And there are different ways you can get that. You don't have to go out and buy every single large amount of paint if you're only going to use it for one particular model, and then you're not going to use it ever again. Get a small of a quantity. Save your money. Don't go out expending too much money on big cans of paint or whatever types of things that you would need to get this process done. You can find a lot of things around the house that can be used to get you to the point where you're able to handle the small intricate parts, but you got to have, most important, patience. If you don't have patience, it can upset you real quick, and you could end up just being discouraged. But it is relaxing, so that's why you take your time with it and give it all you got. Give it the patience that's required to have that finished product and a showpiece, basically, and while you're still working on your other vehicle. I just detailed my actual car, and I put stripes on that, and put some on the front hood, on the top. It has a sunroof in it, and I put a racing stripe all the way through the back, silver, going down. And now, of course, you're going to get those people who want to race you at every light, like they used to do when I was younger. And once I got it all ready to go and everything, everybody want to race you, or they want to jump around you to prove you're not faster than them. So you just got to ignore that stuff. Let them go. I'm not young no more, so I don't have to puff my chest up. I let them go, and I keep cruising. So just don't get into the hype of racing people and getting tickets and endangering your life and everybody else's. I put the racing stripes on because it makes it look better to me. I'm a race fan, and I like my stripes. I like my chrome wheels. I like everything related to making the car look better. Okay? So, with that being said, we can move on to the next step, and that's going to be you breaking the pieces apart. Okay? So, if you're going to break the pieces apart, you break them. I would break them apart according to the color codes that I wrote down in the book itself, right here. So if I got all of these that's another reason for getting the part numbers, is that you can break these pieces off, and then you could do them all at once, so it's not so time consuming. So that's another reason that you want to get this taken care of. And as you find each piece, you would separate it, okay, and then keep it in you can get you a little bag of baggies. That's how I would do it. I take each one of these, because some parts are very small and they will get lost, okay, as you break them off. Keep them in baggies till you're ready to paint them. The numbers that correlates to the to your legend, I call it over here, the color legend. You're going to keep in separate baggies, and then you can mark that baggie saying what model is for and what it's and that's all you need to do, and the different numbers that it should be. And as you get it, check it off, okay, as you put it in the baggie to make sure you got them all. So when you come back to that baggie, a box of baggies at a discount store costs you maybe $1.50, but you got 100 baggies in there, and you can just reuse those as you build the car. So you don't have to keep buying over and over again. So you can reuse them baggies, and you don't want to put, of course, you wouldn't put wet parts in there, painted parts in there. What you want to do is put the original plastic white parts in there till you're ready to paint them the actual color. Okay, so that's one thing you want to do. And say, for instance, however many colors, that's how many baggies you got, and then you can get a sticker, put it on there, and then write on the sticker for what model it's for, so you don't lose track or interact if you're doing more than one at one time. Okay, so they don't you don't end up putting the wrong part on the wrong vehicle kit that you're working on. All right. So that's one thing. That's one way I would do it. Okay, this is all suggestions. If you got a better way, by all means, do it. But this works